Girl, it must be you again. You have gone straight to my head. Take the pills and go to bed, but I'm still hooked on this. Well, you are sacred in a way. I don't know God, but still have faith that He will manifest some way when I am next to you.
Follow. Downstairs we have our Captain Babe Ruth driving the big red bus. Make sure you thank him. He has the most important job. Me, I get to annoy you for the next 2 hours. All clear, Babe Ruth. Good to go. So we're on top of a double-decker bus. Just so as a safety reminder, remain seated throughout the whole tour. Okay. So just remember, you guys will have to be sitting down the whole time. Dad is busy over here. But don't touch any of the tree branches. Don't touch any of the wires that we pass by, and you should be okay. For you guys sitting on the right-hand side, there are some tree branches that will come towards you, so just be careful. But let's start on your left. We have Toronto. On your right, Toronto. And in front of you is Mexico. Any questions? No? Alright, I'm kidding. Is this anybody's first time in Toronto? Got a couple of people? Alright, so this on your left is West Toronto. On your right is East Toronto. Yonge Street, the street that we're driving on, separates the west and the east. The addresses start with 1 Dundas Street on the left and 1 Dundas Street on the right. It can be very important because sometimes people get lost and they end up in the wrong area. But on your left-hand side, a 15-minute walking distance gets you to Chinatown. Very fast, very easy. If you're asking to me where the best Chinese restaurants are, this is over there at Chinatown. Over here at Yonge and Dundas, what I could recommend to you for food is McDonald's, Burger King, just fast food, because this is where the mall is. It's where the offices are. The students come here to eat, and it's designed to be go, 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 go. But on your right-hand side, this is Ryerson University's SLC. It's the Student Learning Center. And the Student Learning Center was added in 2015. The white glass on the windows is for the birds, so the birds don't hit the building and die. It's a big problem in our city filled with skyscrapers. The birds don't see the glass, think it's air, and break their necks. But the building has 8 different themes inside as well, going from sky, a beach, a bluff, a valley, and I'll leave the rest as a mystery for you guys to go explore. On your left-hand side, we have the Chelsea Hotel, and it's Canada's largest hotel at 1,590 rooms. It's also the only hotel with a swimming pool and a water slide together, only downtown. Now on your left-hand side, we have this giant condominium, and it's Canada's tallest residential building at 79 stories high. The white lines will light up at top, making it look like it has icicles or tears, but it's supposed to look like the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. You'll have to stand straight in front of it, but from a distance, and then the curvature of the building, you can see the lines going around it. On your left-hand side, we have College Park. This was built from 1928 to the 1930s. It was meant to be 38 stories high, but it only finished with 7 stories, and that's because it was built around the era of the Great Depression. Nobody invested in the mall. The 7th floor is an auditorium, and that's where it used to be called the Rainbow Room. Today it's known as the Carlou. But the Rainbow Room is where Frank Sinatra and the National Ballet Society of Canada has performed inside. They had a free bus shuttle that would run, pick people up here, and then take them to the Eaton Center. That was the shopping needs. It was all free. But then they built the subway line underneath us in 1954, and they got rid of it. And now we gotta pay $3.25 to go from College Station over to Dundas Station, where we were before. By the way, if you guys do use the TTC and you're new to the city, the $3.25 will get you a 2-hour transfer window where you can hop onto the trains, the streetcar, or the buses, no matter what. And you don't have to pay an additional fee as long as it's between those 2 hours. On your left-hand side, we have a clock tower. And this little clock tower is behind a blue mesh. Just on your left there, in front of the bus. Built in 1872, it was a fire station until the fire station burnt down. How does that happen? Do you guys know what a clock tower is used for in fire stations? Back in the 1800s, they were used for the firemen to go all the way up there and keep watch over the city. These buildings would be the tallest thing back then because they need to be at a high vantage point where they could see the fires. Remember, no phones. But clock towers are also used for the hoses, so the firemen can hang them all the way up there and it dries and it doesn't build any mildew on the inside as well. During the 50s, this became a Chinese restaurant, and from the 60s to the 80s, it was known as the St. Charles Tavern. That's where they hosted the unofficial Pride Parade. On Halloween, men would dress up as drag queens and celebrate the courage of Pride outside of the bar as well. Just over on the right-hand side, we have a street called Church, and in front of us is very soon a street called Wellesley. Church in Wellesley is the heart of the LGBTQ+ community, and in 2014, World Pride held an event here that lasted about 5 hours long, had 1 million visitors, 280 floats, and 12,000 marchers. However, this was the longest parade up until 2019. Does anybody know what happened then? Not COVID, but I know that happened. But I'm talking about a parade. 2019, what happened? NBA Championship Finals. The Raptors won. And we held a parade for them. That was about 5 hours and a half with over 2 million people coming into the city. And now that is the longest parade hosted in Toronto. Now I know my friend all the way in the back is from Toronto. Where are you guys from? Montreal?
Alberta. Alberta.
Alberta? From Yukon? Jamaica, okay, sorry. It's the mask. Sometimes you hear something and I don't know. But, alright, anybody know why Yonge Street is famous? Yeah, Jamaica got it. Longest street in the world. Not anymore. We lost the title in 1998. And this is because we changed the name of Yonge Street to Highway 11 north of the city. So we got kicked out of the book. Now, the longest street in the world is Saudi Arabia at around 240 kilometers. But the longest unofficial road is us at 1,896 kilometers, or 1,178 miles long. It can take about 6 days to travel on Yonge Street, and you need an off-terrain vehicle because not all of it is fully paved. Now, at the end, you get to a small town called Rainy River. Population of 500 people. Downtown Toronto has 2.7 million people, and the city of Toronto downtown, the GTA, has 6.8 million people. All of Canada, 38 million. The state of California has more people than all of Canada put together. On the right-hand side, across the streets, is Postal Station F. It was built in 1905. It was a Canadian post office for a while, and today, inside is a very lovely McDonald's. And this is because of the Ontario Heritage Act. So we can't change the outside of some of these buildings, but they can do whatever they want on the inside, is what you see all around the city. There's over 300 of these buildings that have been saved by the Ontario Heritage Act. But if you keep looking on your right-hand side, there's a giant rectangle building, and this is Canada's second tallest at 76 stories high. On the left, they want to build 85. And at the bottom of Yonge Street, they want to build 95. We're going to be passing by that later. Could you imagine living on the 95th floor, and taking a shower, and then suddenly the fire alarm rings? Yeah, it's okay, I'm staying in the shower. Or getting a parachute, jumping out of the 95th floor. If you guys look on the sidewalks very soon on your right, this is Mongolian granite. It's the most expensive granite used for sidewalks because this is the Canadian Mink Mile coming up on your left. The Canadian Mink Mile is where you can find Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Prada, Rolex. It's the world's 7th most expensive shopping streets. But as you're walking here with your stiletto, when you hit the marble, the granite, it makes a 466 hertz click, which is the perfect frequency for your clickety-clack on your shoes, on stilettos and high heel. But in front of you is the pedestrian scramble. It allows people to walk in the middle of the streets for an easier flow of foot traffic. In Tokyo, there's over 300 of them. In Toronto, in the city, it has 5. But downtown, it only has 2. The one at Yonge and Dundas, and then this one in front of you. It's become a very popular place for 30-second hockey games, 30-second concerts, or a 30-second proposal, giving your loved one the hardest question to answer and in the shortest amount of time possible. And there it is in front of the bus. You can see it happen right now. Now, do you guys know Canada's national dish? Yeah, poutine. It's fries, gravy, and cheese curds. It's a recipe for a heart attack. But the cheese is the most important ingredient. It has to come from Quebec City. In 2016, we had a World Eating Championship poutine contest where a man ate 25 pounds of poutine just to win the contest. But we're coming up to a library in just a moment. It's on your right hand side, an orange brick building with the glass interface. So it was built in 1977, designed by Raymond Moriyama. The library is on your right, very soon, just behind these buildings. You can see it now. 4 million books, articles, materials. 2.5 million are non-circulatory. 1.5 million are circulatory inside. But the building has a replica of Sherlock Holmes's study room as well, with the Arthur Conan Doyle book collection in here. This is where they filmed the movie Red with Bruce Willis and Morgan Freeman. It's also where they filmed the music video for The Weeknd called Secrets as well. So you can go on YouTube or Netflix and see the library at home. But it is beautiful if you guys get a chance to visit. They do close around 6 o'clock every day. So if you guys didn't want to visit, you might not be able to today after we finish the tour. But Toronto, when it became a city in 1793, known as the town of York. We didn't have the name Toronto until the year 1834. And that's because John Graves Simcoe didn't like the indigenous word that Toronto comes from, which is Takaronto. It means where the sticks stand on water, or where the trees stand on water. But Yorkville, this area, was a separate municipality, a separate city from the town of York. On the right-hand side, Yorkville had its own town hall built in 1860. But the town hall burnt down in 1941. And guess what's 2 doors down? A fire station. Yeah, we're not very good at fires. On your right-hand side, this is the oldest fire station built in Toronto, built in 1876. And it receives over 5,000 calls a year here in the city. But on your right-hand side is the Four Seasons private residence and hotel. It's where the Blue Jays, the Raptors, and the Maple Leafs like to stay when they come to Toronto. Now, Mark Wahlberg, Mark Zuckerberg, and Drake's mother are rumored to live here. If you'd like to live next to them, the 55th floor penthouse in 2017 sold for $36 million. You get a wine cellar, a library, a private elevator, your own home theater system, and the hotel staff will help you do your laundry for you as well. You get full access to the amenities. But just across the street on your left, we have a grocery store that's called Pusateri's. Started by a Sicilian family coming to Toronto, bringing quality food items into the area. But today they have some of the most expensive cheeses and truffles in the GTA, the Greater Toronto area. They are all the only ones. Oh, you have Pusateri's. Did you come straight from this one? Yeah? Do you know they have a coffee called Kopi Luwak? So Kopi Luwak is the only area in GTA that they carry. But Kopi Luwak is a coffee that's given to a civet, a cat. They eat the beans, digest it in its tummy, and poop it out. We roast the beans and sell it back to you for $600 a pound. Yummy. I'm from Brazil. No, thank you. The coffee They say that the enzymes of the cat take away the bitterness of the coffee, making it taste smoother or sweeter. Yeah, no thank you. I'm good. Underneath us is a part of base station for the subway that's been abandoned. And this is where they have filmed the new version of Total Recall, the movie. But coming up on your right hand side, you'll see a yellow brick building. And this is today Chanel. But back then, in 1922, it was Mount Sinai Hospital. 4 Jewish ladies knocked on the doors of Torontonians, and they came up with $12,000 to purchase the building. Could you imagine coming up with $12,000 to purchase a building today? In the GTA, Toronto, it's estimated you can spend $1 million an average for a home. But on your right-hand side, $12,000 here. This is Chanel, was Mount Sinai Hospital. The Jewish ladies started to help the sick community in Toronto that didn't know how to speak English properly because they realized they weren't getting the proper medical care that they needed. Later on, we're going to pass by the official location of Mount Sinai, so if you remember that building, just keep it in your mind. On your right-hand side is the Hazelton Hotel. Now this is the first 5-star hotel in Toronto, added in 2007, and when it was added here, this is where they hosted TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. If you guys don't know, this film festival is happening at the moment. And TIFF is known as the Lucky Film Festival because it's the last film festival for the Oscars. It's like the saying goes, save the best for last. But we'll talk more about TIFF later. This hotel is where Justin Bieber, Usher, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Brian Latrell from the Backstreet Boys, and many others have stayed. If you want to spend one night, it can cost you up towards $4,000 in here. And you're not allowed to wander into the lobby of the building unless you actually have some business at the building. The security guard will kick you out if you're just going in there to take photos of the celebrities. But if you ever known about Gordon Lightfoot, Neil Young, Billie Holiday, these Canadian folk singers started their career in this neighborhood. On the right-hand side, it's where it used to be, not anymore, the Purple Onion Cafe. But you see, this was our hippie district in the 50s and in the 60s. But what happened is that in 1966, they built the subway line underneath us, and it raised the real estate value very fast. And this is called gentrification. That still happens around the world today. Our hippie district of Toronto today is the Kensington Market area, which is right next to Chinatown. On your left-hand side, we have the Church of the Redeemer, the first church to embrace the Pride community in the city. On your left, we have the other side of the Canadian Mink Mile. So you can see the sidewalks go back into Mongolian granites, the black sidewalk. And then in front of the bus, we're going to pass by the Royal Ontario Museum. Now this museum, you can spend 5 or 6 hours inside and you won't be able to see everything. But because of the pandemic, you only get an hour and a half. It is $23 to go visit. And if you look on your left, the banner for the great whales, and then is an additional exhibit. But on your left, the big building that pops out of you is the Michael Legion Crystal. What do you guys think? Is it pretty? Is it ugly? Is it pretty ugly? Torontonians think it's 50-50. It was supposed to be all glass. Much prettier if you think it's all glass. But what happens in a museum when you let in the sunlight? It damages the artifacts. They only thought about that halfway through the construction. So they covered it up with 75% aluminium and 25% glass. But on your left-hand side is the Royal Conservatory of Music. It's the orange brick building that we're passing by. And that's used to be McMaster University, which is no longer there. On your left-hand side, the Varsity Arena. This is where the American football team of the University of Toronto play. And they're called the Varsity Blues. From 2001 to 2008, the Varsity Blues played 49 games, and they held their longest losing streak with 49 games. Their 50th, they finally won. Do you guys want to guess by how many points? One. The score was 17 to 18, and they scored last minute, shutting down this entire street to celebrate with a pizza party. And then in 2009, their home opening game, they lost 36-0. The other team weighed more than 300 pounds. Our team weighed roughly 100. But on your left-hand side, this is where in 2015, when the Pan American Games were hosted in Toronto, we played archery. If you're not aware, Canada has two national sports. One is hockey, and the other one is lacrosse. Lacrosse used to be an indigenous sport, an indigenous ritual that turned into a sport. But coming up on your left, we have the Bata Shoe Museum. The building looks like a shoebox designed in 1995 by Raymond Moriyama. The flowers at the bottom are all made of shoes, and the main entrance looks like a stiletto or a high heel. 13,000 pairs of shoes, and it spans across 5,000 years of history. They have Queen Victoria's slippers, Elton John's platform boots, and Elvis Presley's loafers. But in front of you is a street name I need help pronouncing. S-P-A-D-I-N-A. Spadina. Who says Spadina? Put up your hands. Who says Spadina? Put up your hands. Who didn't vote? Put your hands down. Cut you guys, eh? Anyways, it is actually Spadina. In the 1800s, if you say Spadina, you're the high class. If you say Spadina, you're the working class. Today, Torontonians say Spadina because the working class outnumbered the high class. But the reason why the high class said Spadina is because it comes from an indigenous Aboriginal word, Ishpadina. Ishpadina means a sudden rise on land. A sudden rise on land happens all the way in front of the bus. Back in the 1800s, that sudden rise on land was 25 empty lots. And it would just be a little bump. Those 25 lots, the city named it Casa Loma. Casa Loma in Spanish means house on a hill. Sir Henry Pellet climbed up that little hill and looked south, which is behind him. He was able to see Lake Ontario. So he bought those 25 lots and started building Casa Loma as a gift to his wife. His wife was Mary Dodgson, and she was the first chief commissioner of the Girls Guides in Canada. If you don't know what the Girls Guides are, they're like the Girl Scouts, very similar. So, Mary Dodgson took over the Girls Guides when they had 250 members. By the end, when she left, they had over 17,000 members, and she won the Silver Fish, which is the Oscars for the Girls Guides as well. But if you look in front of the bus, just behind that tree on your left, you should be able to see the skyline of Casa Loma. The pointy orange tower that's behind that tree is the Scottish Tower. And then the tower next to it will be the Norman Tower, and that's in front of you now. So we're going to take a better picture of Casa Loma later. Make sure you guys have your cameras ready. But Casa Loma is the #1 visited attraction in the city. It is not the CN Tower. But Sir Henry Pellet, when he was building it, he looked around and he saw the houses were average price around $2,500. So he decided to spend, as the original budget of Casa Loma, $250,000. But Casa Loma's construction was a total of $3.5 million. With inflation, that's $76 million today. And the CN Tower in 1976 cost $63 million to build. They have 98 rooms, 30 bathrooms, 25 fireplaces, an incomplete bowling alley, incomplete swimming pool, and much, much more. I'm just going to ask that everybody remain seated, as you guys have been doing, and that we're going to go under a bridge, so don't touch it. Captain Beirut, whenever you're ready, when the traffic allows you, you can go under the bridge. I might have to say, 13,000 pairs of shoes back again. Sonia Bata is the lady that collected a lot of his shoes. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2018. But if you look on the right-hand side, all those flowers that are made of shoes are the provincial flowers of Canada. Ontario's provincial flower is the trillium, which you see on the right-hand side, 3 white petals and a yellow box. I think you guys said you're from Montreal? Yes, so Quebec. Your flower is the purple one on the right-hand side that's next to us to the right. Now, on the right-hand side, we'll be passing by the Varsity Arena one more time. And in 1969, this is where when John Lennon, Eric Clapton, and Yoko Ono performed for the first time together here. And it was an event that was Chicago, The Doors, a few other artists were playing. It was funded by the Eaton family, and funny enough, a biker gang called the Vagabonds. But if you want to take a really cool picture, you want to take your cameras and point them to this Michael Leachin crystal. On the glass, you'll be able to see the bus's reflection. By the way, the Royal Conservatory of Music that we passed by is where Shania Twain, Sarah McLachlan, Ryan Reynolds, Carly Rae Jepsen, and Glenn Gould graduated at the age of 12 from. But on your right-hand side, this museum used to be 5 separate museums. They were the museums of archaeology, paleontology, zoology, mineralogy, and geology. They own 13.5 million artifacts, but they only display 5% of it at a time. Again, it can take you a long time to just explore the main museum with a general admission ticket. If you want to go explore the whales, that's an additional $12. So if you don't have time, you might not be able to see everything that you have on your list. They have a beautiful Egyptian section that looks like you're entering inside a pyramid. They also have a bat cave, which is a really dark tunnel with a bunch of bats flying around. Are they real bats, or is this simulation? I don't know, go inside. But if you have your cameras on your right-hand side, 3, 2, 1, there's the front of the bus. So you can wave hello, and then wave goodbye as we pass by. Now, on your right-hand side, the ROM has the largest collections of Chinese architectural artifacts outside of China. And they have 2 Fu Lions that used to be in Hong Kong, now in between the old main entrance of the building. And you'll see that in just a moment as we pass here. They have indigenous area as well with a bunch of artifacts from all over the world. It's not just indigenous artifacts from Canada, but they do have a really large portion of the building that you can check out. I believe the indigenous portion of the museum, if you buy the wrong ticket, you'll get it for free. So the indigenous Canadian part is coming up also on the right-hand side. Is where the old main entrance of the building is. Did you guys know that Canada came from the word Kanaka with a K and a T, and it meant a small settlement? Those colonizers that were coming here, the French and the British, kept asking the indigenous people, "Hey, where are we? We're not in India, we're somewhere else." And the natives had no idea what they were saying, and they kept saying, "What are you doing in my small village? What are you doing in this settlement? In this small settlement?" Kanata was the word that they kept repeating, and because they thought Canada was the word, that's why we got our name. On your right-hand side, there's the old main entrance of the museum, and the Fu Lions that I mentioned. But coming up on your right-hand side is the Faculty of Law and the Faculty of Music of the University of Toronto. On your left-hand side, we have the Victoria University, which is they lease the land from the University of Toronto. But this area around you, it kind of reminds you of Harvard. Hollywood films Harvard here because Harvard banned filming in their own campus. They believe it distracts their students. So Good Will Hunting, RoboCop, Incredible Hulk, Mean Girls, Suits, Harold and Kumar, Go to the White Castle, Resident Evil, Afterlife, Titans, Umbrella Academy, and a couple of new things that are on Netflix have been filmed here on UFT. Plus, if you watch the sitcom Friends, the stock footage of the Robarts Library. What is the Robarts Library? Keep looking on the right, and at the intersection here, you can see a head, a little stick. That's a turkey. Yes, the Robarts Library is shaped like a turkey. It was voted as the ugliest building in Toronto. But that library, the stock footage of the building, was shown in Friends when Rachel's father has a heart attack. On your left-hand side, this is Queen's Park, named after Queen Victoria. There's 500 trees inside. Toronto is home takes care of the province. Ours is done forward. And next year, we'll be having a provincial election to see who sits in there. This year, we have a federal election. And that's the cabinet with Justin Trudeau at the moment. And they're the highest level of government taking care of Canada. But on September 20th, we're going to vote if we keep Justin Trudeau or if we kick him out. I believe the first 4 days of early and advanced polling have already passed. So you guys can go online and check out whoever's in the lead. But on your right-hand side, we have the Princess Margaret Cancer Center. And this is the largest cancer center in Canada. They were the ones that discovered stem cells and developed the research for it. But they also developed technology that eventually led to touchscreens on our phone. Now coming up on your left-hand side, we have the Toronto General Hospital, and they issued insulin for the first time in 1922. In 1950, the first external heart pacemaker. 1983, the first single lung transplant, and 1986, the double lung transplants. They're the busiest hospital in Toronto today. Over on your right-hand side, we have Mount Sinai. This is where most children are born, and if you remember that little Chanel store, they came here in the 1940s. They can help with over 65 different languages, but in Toronto, we speak 180 different dialects. So if they can't find your language, they'll hire an interpreter for you out of your own pocket. This is the hospital that has done the most achievements for the city of Toronto. They were the first bone and tissue bank in Toronto. They were the first ones to start using mammography machines as well in the city. They were the first ones to find, detect, and correct thyroid imbalance at birth as well. On your left-hand side, we have sick kids. And look closely, because on the windows, you might find a superhero washing away the evil skunk on the windows. By the way, watch out for the tree branches. Everybody on the right-hand side, there's a huge stick that comes out here. Just be careful with it. There it is. So sick kids, it's mandatory for the window washers to dress up as superheroes. Because, well, it's to cheer up the kids. And who let the dogs out? Sick kids. They have puppy therapy. They let the dogs loose in case of special surgeries. But they also have Pablum that they invented, which is the life-saving cereal for the malnutrition child. However, have you guys ever seen the Beanie Baby turtles? The Beanie Baby plush toys? They like have big eyes and they're half closed. Usually the turtles are only yellow and green. But at Sick Kids, you can find them all blue. And they're only given to the kids at Sick Kids because they're not allowed to bring their own plush toy in them. But on your right is the Toronto Rehab University Center. They have the largest rehabilitation program in the country, and I believe this is called IDAPT. Underneath us are tunnels that connect all of these hospitals together. And it's not open to the public, it's only open to the doctors so they can move the patients in case of an emergency, not having to fight the traffic above ground. Watch out for the tree branches coming up on your right again. But on your left, we have Commissioner Institutes. This is more of a school where doctors and students will go to study new machines that come out. But in front of the bus, we see a red, white, green store. What is it? Yeah, Krispy Kreme Donut Cafe. This is one of 6 in Toronto, but Canada is the donut capital of the world. We have more donut shops than anywhere else in the world. It's amazing. It's because of Tim Hortons. Has been Tim Hortons? Timmy's? Yeah, you got a double-double, Timbits. But did you know they started in North Bay as a hamburger hot dog shop? And they used to burn their items quite often. So they restarted in Hamilton selling donuts and coffee. But on your right-hand side, this huge glass piece that you see, that's the Galleria Italia of the Art Gallery of Ontario. It was added in 2008, expanded the viewing space of this gallery by 47%. Just remember, above your heads are electrical wires for the streetcar. Don't touch them because you'll receive an electrifying situation you won't be able to get out of. But for every jolt of electricity going through your body, the city will also fine you for stealing your electricity. Yeah. But the art gallery, everybody that's 25 and under gets inside the art gallery for free. On my bus, everybody is 25 and under, but they check ID. But they have works from Picasso, Monet, Dali, Degas, Rodin, Group of 7, 95,000 pieces of work that span across 2,000 years of history, and at the moment they have a special exhibit for Andy Warhol. You can check that out. It's coming up on your right hand side. There's the art gallery. The largest art gallery in Canada is in Ottawa, but on your right hand side, just after art gallery, that's Chinatown as well, and that's the largest Chinatown in the GTA out of the 6 that we have in the GTA. But on your right hand side, this is OCAD University. If you ever watched Kim's Convenience on CBC or Netflix, and the building is meant to look like a box of crayons with all the crayons falling down. If you want to take a picture of this building, you want to take a picture behind you. In about 3, 2, 1, look behind you. You'll notice that each crayon at the top of that building is supporting the building 100%. Nothing else. This is a table rock building. In English, it's load bearing. You can put a lot of weight at the top, and it should stay structurally stable. Key word, should. Because the students tell us during windy days, it feels like it sways back and forth. But did you know buildings are meant to sway? If they didn't, it has to resist a lot more wind pressure and they could break. So the CN Tower, the antenna sways for a meter. The sky pod, half a meter. The main deck, 9 inches. But if you go up to the CN Tower, it takes about 58 seconds to go from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. You're traveling at 22 kilometers an hour or 15 miles an hour. Just be aware, on a windy day, it can take 3, 4, or 5 minutes to get up there because the elevator can't go that fast. So it takes its time, and as it's going up, you can hear the elevator scratch the concrete with its cables. So if you're scared of heights, ask them if it's a windy day if you're going up to the CN Tower. Maybe rebook it if you don't want to do that. I had no idea it swayed like that in the elevator. And I decided to go to the CN Tower at nighttime. The doors closed, and the first thing that came out of the lady's mouth was, "We'll get there when we get there." She scared everybody half to death. In front of the bus, you can see my grandmother's parking. She's not the best parker. On your left, it's on the wall. This is an art installation with a pun. There it is. So the art installation is called Breaking News. It's our news van breaking out of our new building. This is where we used to film much music, the Canadian version of MTV as well. And if you look on the right-hand side across the street, that mural for the Friends advertisements has been hand-painted on the wall by the OCAD students that we just passed by. School OCAD, Ontario College of Art and Design, is one of the best one of the best arts and film schools in Ontario. Alright. So back in the 1800s, this neighborhood was known as the garment district. It was completely unpaved, dirt roads, and they had clothing factories everywhere. Today, it's known as the entertainment district, and it's where the young, hip people go to the clubs and the bars and the restaurants. But if you look on the right-hand side across the streets, is Canada's first 3D IMAX. It's North America's second because New York had theirs before ours. And this is home to Canada's second tallest escalator. It's an escalator that's 5 stories high. In 2019, we lost the title as the tallest escalator because in Ottawa, they built the Rideau Station. And the Rideau Station in Ottawa is the longest escalator today. But back in the 1800s, those the clothing factories ended up leaving this neighborhood. And it was left abandoned. There was nothing to do here. And so Ed Mirvish started to revitalize the neighborhood by buying the Royal Alexandra Theatre in 1967. Now he renovated the theater and started showing performances and then started investing in restaurants and bars to open up in the neighborhood. Today, because of his investments, we have a street that we nicknamed and we keep it as is tradition, Restaurant Row, where there's 10 restaurants side by side each other. Even if a restaurant shuts down, another one will open up in its place. However, the area started to get popular, so they decided to build the Skydome in front of you. This, in 1989, is where the Raptors, the basketball team, used to play. It's also where the Argonauts used to play. Not anymore. Both of those teams play in different arenas. The only people that play inside of the Skydome today is the Blue Jays. It's Canada's #1 baseball team because it's our only one. But we used to have one from Montreal. They used to be called the Expos, and then they were sold to the United States. They became Washington. Inside of our stadium, it takes about 20 minutes to open the dome, and it was the first successful retractable roof to open. In Montreal, they had one that also opened, but it broke and it never closed. So it takes 20 minutes for us to open, and then coming up, this is King Street in front of you. If it wasn't for the pandemic, this entire streets area on your left would be blocked off. It would be closed and red carpet events would be run.